Hello everyone, and welcome to another Top 5 Records video. And today I've got the difficult task of ranking all 12 studio albums of the Beatles. Now, some followers of this channel may know that a couple of years ago when I just started this channel, I already did a top 5 video with my favorite Beatles albums, but things have changed. First of all, in this video, I'm focusing on the original 12 studio albums. In the other video, I had Let It Be Naked. Now, I love Let It Be Naked, but for this ranking, I'm excluding it because I'm focusing on the first original 12 UK albums. So, Let It Be Naked is out, and also, about a year ago, I did a video a video series actually, in which I was listening to all the Beatles albums in chronological order. Now, listening to them in chronological order, all in the original mono versions, that changed my perspective and the experience. So, without further ado, here they are, all 12, and I'm gonna rank them. And on the number 12, well, kicking it off with Let It Be. First of all, this is obviously not a bad album. The fact that the Beatles made in about 6 years, 63 to 69, 7 years, so many incredible albums, that is a miracle in itself. And all these albums are in varying degrees good. And Let It Be for me is the least good in that regard. I mean, it has great songs. I've Got a Feeling, Get Back, Across the Universe, Let It Be, Long and Winding Road. But the thing with this one is you can hear that there is a lack of focus in this version. You can see in the Get Back documentary series by Peter Jackson that they had issues while recording it. Where were they going? Now, Paul McCartney later on said that they actually wanted a bare, stripped, naked version of the band, the 4 or 5 of them, in the studio. And after things got problematic, there was this mix done by, I should know his name, Phil Spector, of course. He was called in by John Lennon. John Lennon was a fan of Spector, and Spector added orchestra, and he did things that they were just not coherent with the soul of this album. And I'm mostly connected to Lennon from the Beatles. I love all the Beatles members, and I think they have all done wonderful things. Some more wonderful than others, but I think they have all done wonderful things. And usually I correspond mostly to the decisions made by Lennon, but when you listen to Let It Be Naked, you can hear that this album can sound so much more better. Stripped down, better track listening, some songs were pushed to the side, some of the better songs of these recordings on Let It Be Naked. And not only just that, when you listen to the original Get Back mix made by the original producer, Glyn Johns, there's also a more coherent album there. The element of a story in the album, a vision on what they were doing, it's just more present on just 2 other versions. This one, the original release, sometimes it's just a bit messy and a bit kitschy in some moments. Not a bad album, but these songs deserve better. And that's why I put Let It Be on number 12. On the number 11, Please Please Me. Now, I love Please Please Me. It's simple as that. And I started loving it most when I listened to this first UK mono version. Also, there is this mono stereo debate. Some people think that you should only listen to the Beatles in mono, but the interesting thing is that there are not a lot of bands who have so many dedicated mixes in mono and in stereo, and sometimes the takes are different. So if you'd like to know more about my opinion on the mono stereo matter, for example with Please Please Me, I just did a video on that in my mono versus stereo series. You can find it on my channel. It's not that old, it's relatively new. Now, listening to this mono for the first time, I was just blown away how good it is. Opening with I Saw Her Standing There. Many, many good songs. Love Me Do. P.S. I Love You. I really love Baby It's You. I just think the way Lennon sings this song, Baby It's You, is it comes from so deeply gutted, and Lennon can sometimes sound so incredibly strong when he goes to his love for rock and roll in his voice. When he shouts, this man can shout. It's amazing. Talk about shouting, ending off a twist and shout. Why on the 11th spot then? Some of these recordings are just plain brilliant, and the album is unique. It's the entrance of the Beatles. I really love it. There are some songs that are not that spectacular, like A Taste of Honey. But yeah, it's a special album. Yet, only on number 11, which really says something about the quality of the Beatles. Number 10, some people are likely to say this should have been earlier in the list, so before the other two. But I really want to make a plea for Beatles For Sale. I think this album didn't get the love it deserves. I mean, it has 8 Days a Week, which is already a very good song. It's also one of the first albums of the Beatles that I bought myself. When I left home, I found this on a marketplace, an early Dutch copy. So I spent some time listening to it, but that's not the only reason. The track listing is just pretty good. I mean, 8 Days a Week, that's a very good song. Words of Love. But mostly, what I think is really, really spectacular on this album is Now I'll Follow the Sun. I thought it was on side 1. I'm looking. It is. Opening with No Reply. I'm a Loser. Rock and roll music. I like that. I mean, doing a Chuck Berry cover is difficult, but this is a good one. I really like Mr. Moonlight. Some people don't like that song, but I'm gonna make a plea for I'll Follow the Sun. I'll Follow the Sun is one of the best songs written in the 60s. Here's why. Just the chord and melodical development is amazing. Then the intimacy in the voice of McCartney just brings this to a new level. Also, and it's somewhat counts for this album on more levels, lyrically, they are developing. I'm a Loser is a very fragile song. That's not so common in these older, more pop-oriented rock and roll teenage high school songs, if I may say so. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that genre. I really love that genre. Sometimes the lyrics are just a little bit more simple, and you can make a masterpiece with simple lyrics. The Beatles have proven that time and time again. But I'm a Loser adds to that. It adds depth of fragility, being fragile, of not quite being as confident as you might hope, or that your image might suggest. And then there is I'll Follow the Sun, which is just a spectacular moment in lyrical writing of the Beatles. Now, this song tells about something most of us, or perhaps all of us, encounter at a certain moment. The thoughts going through your mind just before you start a breakup. And there is a philosophical nature to this lyric. There is an element of extra depth of how he's looking at the situation, pushing or hoping for a bright future. Now these are very interesting elements, especially for such a young songwriter to put in there. Sometimes in between all these songs, there's also a lot of fun going on Beatles albums, but sometimes they they find deeper meaning or an element of emotional philosophy, if I may say so, with a very interesting hook that adds depth. Same thing for She's Leaving Home. I mean, that's such a great song. Lyrically, they're doing something that's quite out of the ordinary. The same counts for I'll Follow the Sun. I think it's a rare masterpiece. So, on number 10, Beatles For Sale. On number 9, A Hard Day's Night. A Hard Day's Night was my first introduction to the Beatles. It was the only Beatles album my parents had at home. Now, they were no Beatles fans. They didn't hate them, but I grew up in a Rolling Stones family, so I knew more about the Rolling Stones. I was expecting a rougher album when I put this on for the first time, so my love for the Beatles did not start here. But over the last couple of years, I watched the film, I've been listening to different pressings of this album, and it is just a very interesting and good album. It opens with A Hard Day's Night, which is clearly a banger. I Should Have Known Better. That's a good song. I'm Happy Just to Dance With You, and I Love Her. Good song. Good song after good song. Tell Me Why. Can't Buy Me Love. Wow, that's just side one. Just side one. Then side two. Anytime at all. And I'll Cry Instead. So many great songs on one album. That is also, if you take a look at the career of the Beatles, in such a short amount of time, how many incredible good songs they wrote and recorded. On number 9, A Hard Day's Night. Number 8, with the Beatles. This for me started my love for the old Beatles. It is such a powerful album. It is so good. Opening with It Won't Be Long. All I've Gotta Do. All My Loving. Just naming these titles almost already gives me goosebumps. Till There Was You. That's a very good recording of the Beatles. Please, Mr. Postman. Then side 2, Roll Over Beethoven. They are really going to great levels on that song, but having the Chuck Berry song in my head, and it's never gonna get out of my head. It's very tough competition, but Hold Me Tight after that. Hold Me Tight is such a good song. You Really Got a Hold on Me. I Want to Be Your Man. And I actually like Devil in Her Heart. It's a nice cheeky song. Not a Second Time, and ending off with Money. Sheerly amazing album. On number 8, with the Beatles. On number 7, am I correct? Yes, I am correct. On number 7, this was originally in my top 5 Beatles albums video. Now, I love that album, Ever the Same. It's just, they have so many great albums. Help. This is gorgeous. The opening song, Help, is one that, again, just as I'm a Loser, adds depth to the Beatles and to the character of John Lennon. This man was not as solid emotionally as a lot of people thought, I think. Well, obviously he opened up a lot with Plastic Ono Band, but the fact that he is getting fragile, that he is not solely trying to push this successful, happy-go-lucky boy band attitude and image is just incredible. There are so many great songs here. I Need You. You're Gonna Lose That Girl. I really like that song. That's one of those songs that very often just pops up in my head when I'm looking at a film or when I'm analyzing a film and something's going on and you're like, when it's obvious for the audience what's gonna happen and the main character doesn't quite get it, then I can just start singing, you're gonna lose that girl, you're gonna lose that girl. I had to explain it to a friend last week why I did that. I said, well, it's a Beatles song, and it's just obvious. You're gonna lose that girl. After that, Ticket to Ride. Another one of the great Beatles songs. And on this album, I think you can really hear the transition to the newer Beatles, the more experimental Beatles. Songs that are much more diverse and melodically developed. Side 2 opens with a Act Naturally, which I've heard for the first time, I believe, as a Buck Owens song. I believe it's originally a Buck Owens song. Awesome song. Awesome Ringo song. I think that's one of the best Ringo songs. It's Only Love, and that's one hell of a song here. Tell Me What You See. And then I've Just Seen a Face. Man, so many incredible songs, one after another. And after I've Just Seen a Face, Yesterday. This album is a masterpiece. Only thing is, ending it off with Dizzy Miss Lizzy, that's a bad choice. I mean, where do you go after Yesterday? Nowhere. You don't have to go anywhere. Beautiful last song. And it should have opened with Dizzy Miss Lizzy. Act Naturally would have been a very good second song after Dizzy Miss Lizzy opened side 2. Could have been there, but yeah, well, that's just my opinion, you know. And we're going to number 6. Yes. Rubber Soul. All I can actually say about these albums is just praise, praise, praise. This is one of the most, perhaps the most impressive catalog anyone has ever had, especially if you look at this short time period. It's just, I mean, I did a ranking all Rolling Stones albums. They have double the amount of albums. They have 4 or 5 times the amount of time for that. And it's incredible what the Rolling Stones did. I mean, they made so many incredible albums. They were wrestling with time and different changes in hypes. But it's just so different if you take a look at the Beatles. I mean, record after record after record after record. It's solid. Solid. I mean, it's tough to compare these two. They have had very, very different intentions. And they are both amongst the best bands ever. But doing a video like this, it's just, I fall from one amazement into the other. This one, Rubber Soul, opening with Drive My Car. What a banger. What a banger. Then Norwegian Wood. I think that's one of their best ballads. Gorgeous, gorgeous song. You Won't See Me. Nowhere Man. Level of writing skill is just amazement. Think for yourself. The Word. And then ending side 1 up with Michelle. Again, one of the best ballads. Just some of the best ballads are on this album. Side 2, What Goes On, Girl. That is a deep lyric again. Very, very deep lyrics. I mean, John Lennon was also a great lyricist. Both McCartney and Lennon were very, very good lyricists. I'm looking through you. In My Life. It's tough to describe why all these songs are incredible. Melody on one end, lyrics on the other, the diversity of them songs, Run For Your Life. Now that has some problematic lyrics, gotta admit. But If I Needed Someone, it's just, and we're just at number 6. Going to number 5. I'm gonna put Magical Mystery Tour on here. Sue me. Some people think this is a letdown. Again, just as with the Beatles For Sale, I think that is a horrible conclusion. And I was on the same level, by the way. I was on the same level because of this pressing, actually. Magical Mystery Tour often sounds like crap. What I'm holding here is the first US mono pressing. Because the first pressing of this album was American. In the UK it was released as a 2 EP and they ditched some songs on there. And I mean, also a two single, two double EP. I don't fancy it. And this is the first mono one. Now, putting that on, it sounds like crap. So I did not fall in love with it as much um, as I did later on. Because later on I found a German Hörzu pressing. And I've told this story more often on this channel. So I'm not going to elaborate too much on that. But the German Hörzu pressing is one of the most incredible sounding albums ever. And the best sounding version of a Beatles album I have ever encountered. It is crisp, clear. It has so much definition. It almost seems like it has no equalizing. I know that's not true because else you cannot press it, but it really goes to the edge of how little equalizing you can have there. It is a stereo image that is just incredible. It is an audiophile production. If you can ever find a German Hörzu pressing, put it on and you know why this is in the top 5 of best Beatles albums. This is not just some sidestep they did between Sgt. Pepper's and the White Album. It is a masterpiece. Opening with Magical Mystery Tour. You got songs like The Fool on the Hill. Blue Jay Way is good. Your Mother Should Know. I'm the Walrus. I'm the Walrus. What a song. Hello, Goodbye. Strawberry Fields Forever. Penny Lane. Baby Richmond. And ending off of All You Need Is Love. This is a hit-packed wonder of an album. It has so many incredible songwriting. So much just beyond incredible production. They did so many wonderful things sound-wise. It is a masterpiece. Problem is, we're not hearing it correctly. So do yourselves a favor. If you disagree with this album on the number 5 spot, count yourself happy. You know why? Because then you're still about to discover the true sound of Magical Mystery Tour. Find a German Hörzu pressing. I got a video on this channel wondering if the Beatles sound better on Hörzu. Then you can see the cover. Then you know what to look out for. Do yourselves a favor. Go out for that one. And rediscover this magical album. On number 5. On number 4. Yeah, Revolver. I start to revalue this album in the last one and a half year. Because last year, more than a year ago, I found the first UK mono one, which is incredible sounding. And it really drew me into the magical world this album actually is. Opening with Taxman, amazing song. Then Eleanor Rigby. Listen to the violin there. I mean, that as a second song, Eleanor Rigby. It's one of the... How would you describe Eleanor Rigby? There's actually no way of describing what kind of song it is. The element of melancholia, the element of sadness, but with this beautiful richness of sound. It is a marking of incredible craftsmanship and a wild imagination. Then I'm Only Sleeping, which I think is a beautiful, beautiful ballad. Very intimate again. Love You Too is good. Here, There and Everywhere. Yeah, it's a McCartney, Lennon McCartney composition, but Paul McCartney singing here. Here, There and Everywhere. Just as Michelle or Girl, or perhaps even as I'll Follow the Sun, is one of those moments of very short song, but in the short amount of minutes it takes, it just leads you to the most incredible, unimagined paths of melody, a sincerity in lyrics, a look into the soul of the vocalist, of the writer, that is beyond imagination. It's one of those out of nowhere moments of brilliance from the Beatles. Then Yellow Submarine. It's an okay Ringo Starr song. I enjoy it. She said. Good Day Sunshine. Bam! What an opener that is. Of side 2, that is. Really good song. And Your Bird Can Sing. out of nowhere seems to come this most beautiful melody, and the way these voices go higher and higher, but it's gorgeous. Masterpiece for no one, Dr. Robert. I want to tell you, got to get you into my life. That's one powerful banger. And then ending up with Tomorrow Never Knows. This album is, again, I'm saying words like magical and brilliant, and well, let's be frank, that's the only way to describe it. And you can use lots of other superlatives, but a masterpiece of an album. Revolver on number 4. Then to number 3. Abbey Road. Abbey Road on number 3. When the reissue, the 50th anniversary reissue was coming out, you would see this image everywhere on t-shirts and on train stations, at least here in the Netherlands. There was even an Abbey Road or Beatles store in Utrecht. And it was just sheer excitement, sheer amazement. The reissue was very good as well. It's not the best sounding version of the album. I would always recommend, in this regard, the original UK first pressing. But the difference is minor, is slight. This is just one of those albums that, from beginning to end, even moments when some people say it's flawed, I don't think it's flawed. Opening with Come Together, which is just an amazing moment for John Lennon. The rhythm, the way his voice sounds, there's something groovy going on at John Lennon's. I covered that with one of my first bands, and it's just such a vibrant song. I really like the flow, and they sound like a different band on that song. And then you get Something. Talking about beautiful, intimate songwriting. They were really building to somewhere with this album. Then Maxwell's Silver Hammer. That's one of the moments when a lot of people say this album is flawed and that session took a long time. Paul McCartney heard something in that song the others did not. I do not think it is the masterpiece Paul McCartney hoped it would be, but I think it's a nice, quirky little song, and I like it when the Beatles, when they have a very clear banger of an opener, a rocker, when they have a beautiful, intimate song, where do you go? Try something quirky. Try an Octopus's Garden. Try a Maxwell Silver Hammer. I really like it when the path is unknown. When the Beatles can surprise you. And it's not a bad song. It's not a banger, but you don't need a banger at that moment. And I'm going to repeat that theory when I get to, obviously, the White Album. But I really enjoyed it. Talking about Octopus's Garden, it's also there on side 1. Very good song. And ending it off with I Want You, She's So Heavy. Oh Darling, also quirky song. Nice. But the way McCartney is singing it, I mean, there is something in there. There's some incredible beauty and sincerity in the voice, and the music is so varied, so incredible creative, fantasy-wise. Wow, love it. Side 2, opening with Here Comes the Sun. Man, You Never Give Me Your Money, Sun King, Mean Mr. Mustard. Just great melody line after great melody after great melody, and then it slowly gets into Golden Slumbers Carry That Weight in the end. That should be in the top 5 of best Beatles songs ever. That medley is just amazing. It's an epic. And this already big epic album ends in one of the biggest epics ever written. Man, this is a masterpiece. On number 3, Abbey Road. On number 2, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Not the White Album on number 2, no, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Let me explain. Sgt. Pepper's was the first time I fell in love with the Beatles. And I think this might be the same for a lot of younger listeners, because the older listeners may have just encountered their entire journey. I was 14 or 15 years old. Sgt. Pepper's was not an album commonly found in the surroundings where I grew up. The Beatles, as a matter of fact, were not that common ground. It was much more a Rolling Stone surrounding with hard rock, a surrounding with bands like Uriah Heep, Deep Purple, Scorpions, Status Quo, and the Beatles were perhaps a bit, may I say, too sophisticated for a lot of people where I came from. Then I had music lessons in school. I took extra music lessons in school because clearly I enjoy music. And then I found my teacher's copy of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Now, she did not let me borrow that copy because it wasn't original and I was 14 or 15, but she did have a CD. And I took the CD home with me. And I grew up in a time of digital music, but digital in the sense of downloading. So the quality of what my ears were accustomed to was very bad. I did have some records. When I was 14, I got A Night at the Opera, a beautiful pressing, which blew my mind away. But I wasn't aware that there was such a thing as audio quality difference. I just experienced it. And then I got a good CD. At least I remembered it was a good CD. And I sat down in front of my speakers, in front of my stereo system. Nobody around. It was dark. I put that CD on. And I just wanted to focus solely on the album. And that was not a tough thing to do. It was a journey. It was the most gorgeous, beautiful journey. And I have experienced that journey again and again for the first time when I found it on vinyl on the first Dutch stereo pressing, which was good. Then I found the first Dutch mono pressing. That was also good. Then I found the first British mono pressing and I got a mono element on my needle. And the first time I listened to something in full mono was this album. It was this pressing. And I listened to it 2 times in a row. And I got on my bike to bike into the city center of Amsterdam because I thought I want to hear more in mono. And that moment when I got on the bike after listening to this album twice in mono is one of my happiest memories in my life. And I have a rather happy life. But it was of such intense beauty, such a beautiful deep sound. And the story of this record is just so amazing. I can go through the songs, but I assume most of you already know all these songs. Ending up with A Day in the Life. It is just sheer beauty. On number 2, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Now, why is this not on number 1? Because they are the Beatles. They're the Beatles. And their discography is just full-blown packed with amazing, just amazing songs. And this is my favorite one, the White Album. And this is the mono pressing I actually bought a couple of months ago. I was so happy to find it. Same story. This is an album that just keeps on amazing me. First time I heard it digitally, I'm a filmmaker and I wrote my first screenplay with this album on repeat. I was studying during the day, and at night I grabbed myself a glass of whiskey. I was 17 or 18 years old. That's a different story. I would grab myself a glass of whiskey, I would sit behind my computer, and I would start writing my first screenplay of 80 pages. Nothing happened to the screenplay. It was just the beginning of me getting in love with writing. But also this album started to play a part in the screenplay. And the darkness of this album, the magic of this album, it really triggered my imagination. I kept listening to it on repeat, over and over again, during the writing of it. And all this magic was so intriguing. And it has so many incredible songs. Starting off with Back in the USSR, which is just one hell of a banger opener. Then Dear Prudence, so incredible. Then Glass Onion, amazing song. There are a lot of quirky songs in here with ambiguous lyrics, and I love that. This is the Beatles at their most avant-garde. Obladi Oblada. I think that's a very good song, playing with this old melancholical sentimental element of music. Wild Honey Pie. I love the voices there. Bungalow Bill, great song. While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Now, I've always liked that song. I played it with one of my early bands, and then I listened to the mono version, the way the guitar sounds on the mono version. The Journey is just different again, and it has such a deep sound in mono. Happiness is a Warm Gun, amazing. Martha, My Dear, I'm So Tired. Blackbird. I mean, I'm almost sick of hearing Blackbird because in every guitar shop you come, somebody's playing Blackbird. And when you listen to it on an original, or this first mono one, it just blows you away again. And that's the beauty of it. When you get to the core of how the Beatles sounded, they will keep on amazing you, and they will keep on blowing your mind. Piggies, love that song. Rocky Raccoon, Don't Pass Me By. Why Don't We Do It in the Road? That's a hard rock song, isn't it? I Will, Julia. Fragile Lennon again. Birthday. That's an okay song. Your Blues. Does Lennon sound good when he is sad and angry? Yes, he sounds good when he's sad and angry. Mother Nature song. Ooh, that's also a rather good one. Everybody's got something to hide except me and my monkey. Song is about as good as its title. I love that. Sexy Sadie. Helter Skelter. One of the first metal songs. That credit should go to the Kinks, but one of the first. Yeah. Long, Long, Long. Revolution 1. Honey Pie. Savoy Truffle. Cry, Baby, Cry. Revolution 9. That gets a lot of negativity, which it doesn't deserve. The idea that they are experimenting with a sound, college, in an already trippy album. You don't know where you're going, and then you end up at Revolution 9. That's interesting. I think that's very creative, and I really enjoyed that song at that moment in this album, because this is a journey of about 1.5 hours. That journey is just incredible, and then they ended off with It's Good Night. Yeah, Good Night by Ringo. The most gorgeous lullaby. On number 1. The White Album. So, what do you think? That is my ranking of all the Beatles albums. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Please leave a comment below and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.